Oops, no, adjusting screens. Good. Welcome, Roger, Simon, Keith. Yeah, Jeremy. Good to see you back with us again. Christine. Let's wait for the others to come in. Yes, hello, Shrinamala. Hello. Duncan, welcome. So this time, welcome, Mariano. This time we're going to be going into starting the Metta Sutta. Shaolin, yes, welcome. Shaolin, I don't think we've seen you here before. This is your first class? Well, very welcome indeed. Do you have access to the various written materials and so forth?
I haven't looked at it yet, but I will have a look at it.
Okay,
but I
fine.
did see the email that you sent. I just need to I just want to give myself time just to go through all that when I have the chance.
No, I was just checking that at least you got access to them. I've got a separate email list. And what I normally do is, hopefully on the same evening, but hopefully not too long after that, after a class, I just send out to all the students what we'll be doing next time around. If you've got my email, then you presumably have my email address on it. So what I suggest you do, if you want to be on the email list to make sure you get everything fully up to date, if you just send me an email, and then I will add you to that list. So if you send me an email, sometime today, I'll make sure that you are on the list. Okay, thanks, then, Shaolin. Am I pronouncing your name correctly, by the way? Okay, right. Okay. Welcome, Paladin and Fene.
Hoping for some Pali consolation.
Sorry, Pali consolation.
Well, well, the US has just committed democratic suicide.
I try to avoid politics here, but I don't know. I mean, goodness me. I mean, which one is more terrifying? I just don't know. I mean, it's like asking would I rather be executed by electrocution or by poisoning? Well, you know, that's a lovely choice to have. Thank you very much. So kind of you to offer me that choice. You know, where was I now? Oh yes, there were a couple of points that arose. I can't have lost my piece. The whole point of having a yellow piece of paper was I didn't lose it. Here we are. There were a couple of points arising from various questions. And I've got a note here about Mariano asking about the atrium, or the atrio, I think you would call it in Italian. And it means the fireplace. Yes, in fact, in modern Persian, atesh means fire. So originally it says an old root at meaning fire. So the atrium, there's a little hole in the top. You see, like your central fire there, and the smoke goes out the hole at the top.
It makes sense. So it is an open space with a hole on top. And
that's right. So a large open space. You have your family fire there with a vent at the top to let the smoke out. Do you know? Oddly enough, I tried to find the etymology of the word war. Guerra, la guerra in Spanish, which seems to be of Germanic origin, but I haven't yet managed to find the Indo-European route for it, but I will carry on trying because I'm interested in that.
Thank you.
But all I did find in my research is that the Latin is bellum, as we know, de bello Gallico and so on. But it was a bit of an unpopular word because it was, you know, it sounded too much like, you know, the later form bello, beautiful. So you get bellum, a beautiful war. So that's why it was in the Romance language, it was supplanted by an originally Germanic word, guerra, guerre, which is actually cognate with our word quarrel as well. Quarrel, guerra, guerre, yeah. Anyway, there we are. That's those two. Simon, when we were looking at the Karaniya Metta Sutta and the Vyarusana Pratigha I was hoping that over the course of the week, thinking about it, I would come round to your way of thinking, but alas, I find myself unable to. Let me just explain what it arose out of, and then we'll go into the main part of the class. Hang on, what am I trying to do? Share screen. Here we are. I'm just about to share screen with you. Always a bit of a palaver. Share screen. Boom, boom. I wish I could do all this smoothly with one click. It always involves half a minute. Okay, you should all have shared screen now, my iPad. Good, thank you. So I'm just going to call up the Nimitta Sutta. So last time round, we were looking at verse 7. Sorry, it's verse 6, I mean. I will. And as you recall, those of you who saw it, the Vyarusana Pratigha Sanya, Vyarusana with the through anger or aversion. These are very rough translations here, anger and aversion. I had construed these as short form instrumentals. So feminine Vyarusana, nominative, normally the instrumental would be Vyarusanaya. But you can have a short form of it, especially in poetry. Vyarusana. And I thought, let none seek, nanyamanyasa dukkhameche, let none seek or let none want the dukkha, the suffering of another, by instrumental Vyarusana Pratikasanya. Simon came up with the ingenious idea. Sorry, Simon, I won't raise your hopes. I'm going to, as I've said before, I'll allow it in a footnote, but in a very small type footnote. Simon was saying, well, could this be construed as two nominatives, and you can avoid the copulative compound verb to be? So just Vyarusana is sanya. Sorry, Vyarusana is pratika sanya, or vice versa. It would look terribly clumsy, and it just wouldn't be. It doesn't sound to me intuitively like good Pali to say A is B, semicolon, or new sentence. It just doesn't look right. When you get the verb to be omitted, it normally is part of a larger sentence where it's obvious. But just to put two nouns together on their own boldly, like that, it doesn't sound right. To say Vyarusana is pratika sanya, again, that it just doesn't sound logical. Whereas if you put them in the instrumental or construe these apparent nominatives as in instrumentals, it just makes better sense. I'm not totally dismissing you. You're still in a footnote, but if you want to expand the footnote into main text, I'll carry on thinking.
If I could just say, in summary, I thought having two contracted instrumentals, so Birosanaya and Sanyaya, in the same half line, just for purposes of meter, would be a bit of a coincidence, maybe one, but two together is a coincidence. And secondly, that they don't have, it would have to be, it would read through anger, through ill will, and there's no cha or va through anger or ill will, through anger and ill will, which makes it again look more as if they're two nominatives in apposition. And overall, I just thought it was quite neat to have that patigasanya, the perception of striking back, is in fact anger, with the injunction afterwards. So don't wish harm upon one another. But no, that's okay. I mean, a minor footnote is okay, especially as I've pushed you back into subjective aesthetics. You don't have a kind of strong linguistic reason, but if you just think it looks bad, I'm happy with that. And the minor footnote is great, providing it's properly referenced.
Well, okay, it is recorded. I'm not going to dismiss. I mean, linguistically, it is capable of being right. On a strictly linguistic analysis, but it just makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable. Anyway, I'm going to carry on kicking it around in my mind, and also in the light of what you've said.
Everyone else agrees with you, so it was a long shot on my part, but everyone from Sujato to Tanisaro to Bhikkhu Bodhi, they all agree with you. So you know, it was just a long shot at it.
I couldn't swear to this, James, but I think on technical terms that Buddhist language about things is very precise, isn't it? And I don't think that they are interchangeable necessarily. I don't know it. I don't know the Abhidharma well enough to be able to quantify that, but my sense is that words have got very specific and precise meanings. And I don't think you'd necessarily equate the two things in quite that way.
Actually, that's another very good point that Poland has made, because particularly in the Abhidhamma, where you get precise meanings to words. And also, if you do, I mean, just looking at these words themselves, the root, and let me just, let me call up iPad. So we've got the root, rush, meaning anger, and make a verbal noun in Sanskrit, and in Pali the on-angering, and the aroshana, I mean, this prefix a very often has almost an aggressive, a dynamic sense, and sometimes an aggressive one. The word, in fact, we do it in English, we do exactly the same in English via Latin. The word I've just used, aggressive. Okay, gressus is a step. Now, in Latin, ad gressus, which you have in English, aggressio, stepping towards. That prefix ad there has the aggressive meaning, so stepping towards. It doesn't mean just direction towards. There is a meaning of, some kind of hostility, some adverse motion. Adverse, turned against, to adverse, aggressive, affligere, to hit on someone. So the arosana is turning your anger on someone, and the prefix here, which vi, and this becomes then in Pali vyarosana. Vya often becomes bya, so vyarosana. This prefix vi very often has the meaning of well, we know it's the separative meaning, but often a destructive meaning, as biapada, apada, apada. Another one, falling upon someone, like, in older English, you fall upon your enemies. The apada, falling, biapada, the aggression, nastiness, is the idea of not only falling on them, but scattering them, destroying them. So biarosana is a very, it's a positively aggressive thing, and it shines out from the word itself. A destructive anger turned to biarosana, destructive anger turned towards somebody. Whereas the pratika sanya, the sanya, remember the word sanya itself is an internal mental thing happening. It's an identification, it's a cognition. Like the word sanya, as you know, it is directly cognate with the Latin word cognoscere, cognitio, cognition. So the actual turning of your anger on somebody is an externally directed force. The pratika sanya describes an internal mental thing, the internal sense of wanting to push back, pratika, hitting back. So I would say biarosana does actually describe an external event, the turning of the anger on somebody, whereas the pratika sanya describes an internal event.
The version I've got here also says biarosana, and it only ever appears here. I think it's the only reference that's given in the Karaniya Metta Sutta.
So in the Karaniya Metta Sutta, or the canon generally?
Yeah, in the canon, I think it only appears here, or certainly it's the only reference I've got. It gives biarosana as opposed to rosana is causing anger or infuriating.
And just calling it up.
I've got it here on that little, you probably haven't got it to hand, but that little app that I sent you a couple of months ago to do with the suttas and with a nice lookup on it.
Oh, in fact, I was going to get back to you to ask for a further lesson from you on how to use it properly. Yeah, I'm not finding biarosana or biarosana in the PTS dictionary.
It's on this other one, and that does link to the PTS.
Oh, okay. How funny. Anyway, I'll try and find out. I may get back to you soon for further tuition on how to work that thing, which I tried a while ago. First time round it worked, then it didn't. Sorry about that.
Well, I mean, here it's saying that the V is an intensifier, the R is bringing it to you. So like the arising of anger in you. So it's not so much anger as like the causing of anger or the arising of anger.
I'd need to look at that further. My first reaction is to say oi oi. This doesn't, but okay, you're giving me a lot of very interesting homework to do, Simon. Thank you. Okay, so we'll go. Oh, before we go on, there were just points that Roger was raising about. We were talking about the ana, the Sanskrit and Pali prefix anu, and the and we have it in Greek as ana, and we have anabolic and anaphylactic. There's only actually I've discovered on further research, there's only actually a partial overlap between the two. Anu particularly means ongoing, along, a careful consideration, following the same path as. We have it in Greek as in logia, which is reasoning, and then analogia, which we have in English as analogy, which means reasoning along the same lines, following the same steps of reasoning. But in Greek more, although they're etymologically cognate, the Greek has more the sense of either up or over. So anabolic is something that builds up. And ana can also mean excessive anaphylaxis, where your body protects itself, but excessively so. When you go to anaphylactic, like hyperprotective, overprotective shock, your body's reaction actually is more harmful to the body than the original thing that it's trying to protect itself against. So yeah, so that's it then. So etymologically the same, Greek ana, Sanskrit Pali anu, a partial overlap in meaning, but the Greek ana means more, up or excessive, whereas the Sanskrit Pali is more along in accordance with. And we have a very fine example in the verse that we were about to start, anurakhe. Right, any more queries, and we can proceed to verse 7 of the Karaniya Sutta. I'll call it up. There we are. So, Mata yatha niyam puttamayusa eka puttamanurakkhe evam pisabbabhutesu manasam bhavaye aparimanam. So, yatha means as, we could say just as, or as, just as the mother, anurakhe, would protect, guard. You can have, to protect or guard would be rakati. You can also have arakati, meaning to guard or to protect. The anurakhe, now we have this anu. So rakhe, just to guard or protect someone, but the anurakhe then suggests an ongoing, continuing, caring, guarding, like it's a continuous, ongoing thing. So rakhe can involve that, but the anu specifically emphasizes the ongoing watchfulness of the mother in guarding and protecting the child, and also suggests some kind of mental care as well. And we know, for example, that passati means to see, but anupassati means to consider, not just seeing something, but considering, a careful looking point by point, anupassati. And sarati, Sanskrit smarati, to remember. We have the recollection of the qualities of the Buddha, where you go through the qualities of the Buddha one by one. So it's not just remembering, oh yes, I remember that one, that's just sarati, but anusarati, kind of remembering along, in other words, an orderly, sequential remembering one by one. So that's the sense of the anu there. Mariano, please.
Yeah, I was wondering, puttam, any chance that it was used in a genderless mode as well in Pali? Now, considering that in Veneto, puteo, putea comes from the same root.
I think it's highly likely. Let me just check this point. I think it's obviously intended to be not to be specifically a son or a daughter here. Oh, here we are. Ooh, puer, Latin puer, child. What did you call it in Veneto?
Puteo or putea. So in Latin it would be puellum.
Yeah. Here we are. Oops. Sorry, this is sometimes it goes into a quarter page here. I'm not quite. Come on, page. What is it doing? Here we are. It's in pullus and putzlos and pole, yeah. Oh, so some Greek pests, as in, pedo, yes.
Ah.
As in pedagogy, puer, pubes, putra. Okay, a son, and then in general, a child, or no, here I think it's clearly intended to be her child.
Yeah.
I know that there were some quite disgraceful periods in history where female children were regarded with less respect and love than male ones. But here it's clearly intended to be a child of either sex.
Thank you.
Right. No, I hadn't spotted that. The pes and the puer. Very good. Nia, in fact, it's a corruption of nija, inborn, self-born. Nija. The niyam here in Sanskrit would be nijam, literally ni in, ja born, literally born of her own body, just emphasizes the fact her very own child. Niyam. Sometimes you get a ja. Occasionally you find a ja turning up as a ya in Pali. Not often, but occasionally. So niyam puttam, her very own child, anurakhe, would protect. Ayusa. That is the instrumental, of course, from the ayu or ayus. In Sanskrit would be ayusha, and in Pali ayusa. From ayu, which we have as ayurveda, life science. So here it means one's life. Simon, please.
Yeah,
make it easy this time, Simon.
Okay. Oh, this is a bit easy. Yeah. Look, checking this one out before, I checked out Niya, and presumably Niyam is agreeing with Puttam, and you could have, like, for example, if it was by means of one's own son, it would agree kind of Niyena Puttena or something like that. It's just kind of an ordinary adjective. Is that right?
Niyam, as far as I know, is an ordinary adjective. I'm fairly sure that's right.
Checking this one out, I mean, I checked out Nija, and I can't really understand what the PED is getting at here, but it says for Nitya, Pali Nitya. Is that saying it's not related to Nitya, or it is related to Nitya?
Nitya with a double C, as in permanent, and anicca.
Yeah, standard.
No, there's no connection at all. I mean, I'm just looking up PTS here.
Look up Nija.
Well, I wish this thing wouldn't do it to me. This machine's constantly just giving me a quarter of a page. Come on. There we are. Nia, Sanskrit Nija Kodvide, one's own.
If you look up Nija, I can't really understand what the dictionary means. There it is.
Ah, okay. I think what it means is that there is a corrupt dialect form.
Ah, okay.
From Nitya. I hadn't actually seen this before. So Nidja with dialect J for Nitya. So I'm not absolutely sure what it's getting at either. Let me just look up the Sanskrit Nidja. I mean, no self-respecting Sanskritist would ever say that Nidja is an allowable variant of Nitya. Let me I'm just looking in. Here we are. Moni Williams. Oh, thank you, Moni Williams. Innate, born within oneself, or something is born within you, or in this particular case, the child born of her own body. Then constant, continual, Moni Williams give, which of course is the same as Nitya. But certainly not etymologically the same word. And in Sanskrit, it's difficult to see how they could ever have been confused. I can well see how Nidja could have come to mean continual, kind of, but certainly not linguistically, not as variants of the same word, because Sanskrit would treat them as such different words, unless in some dialect form. But normally we just don't see dialect forms appearing in Sanskrit. We certainly see them appearing in Pali, but not in Sanskrit. So when I say don't let that detain you and don't let it bother you, it sounds like an awful teacher's cop-out because the teacher doesn't really know. But that is my genuine advice. I'm certainly not going to lose any sleep over it. And I kind of agree with you. I'm not absolutely sure what the PTS is getting at here. Sanskrit Nidja with dialect J for Nitya, Pali Nitya. I mean, of which dialect? A Pali dialect or a Sanskrit dialect? You don't really have Sanskrit dialects anyway. Sanskrit, by the way, Sanskrit, isn't it refined? You know, the refined language. Simon, I said, make it an easy one. Next time, I hope you will. No, seriously, it's good to keep my elderly brain working. So here we have, so then, mata yatha niyam puttam ayusa eka puttam anurakhe. We've got puttam repeated. That's just kind of a poetic emphasis. Just as the mother might protect her own child, eka puttam, her only child, her one and only child. There's just a poetic repetition for emphasis there. Evampi. Okay, yatha as very often correlates with tata, thus. Yatha tata, as so. It can correlate with evam, meaning thus, as in evam me sutam. And the pi, Sanskrit api, then just emphasizes even so, even in exactly that same way, evam pi. Sabbabhutesu manasam bhavaye aparimanam. So good. Space there. So we know the word bhavana, meaning the cultivation, building something up. This is the optative form, present optative, bhavaye, let, and the general, let one, or generally one should. One is exhorted to develop what? An aparimanam manasam. I particularly like the word aparimanam as a linguistic illustration because we have the, let me call up. Oops. Oh, pen's not working properly. Come on. So parimana, aparimana, it means boundless. The root ma and the Greek root me both mean to measure. So the Greek then, metron, just means a measure. By the way, the Sanskrit for metron, which we have in English as meter, is matra. The Greek metron, Sanskrit matra, are the same word. So those of you who knew, especially surely, when I say they're the same word, you might say, how can you possibly say that? They're manifestly different words. It's shorthand for saying, when I say two things are the same word, if you dig back into linguistic history, they started off life as the same word a long time ago. So that's what I mean when I say the same word. So aparimana is, let's see, we know what the word perimeter, perimeter, the perimeter we say in modern English, it's the measuring around, the line, so to speak, the boundary line. It literally means an around measuring. It's that line that measures around a certain area, the perimeter, perimetron, the around measuring. If so, and the measuring in Sanskrit is, and Pali is mana, so parimana means the measuring around, setting a limit to it. So if you look at aparimana, the up meaning aparimana, we can create an English word unperimetered without a perimeter. That's how it comes. That's how it means bound. Well, bound in the sense of a boundary, a measure, a limit. So it's boundless, literally, or from Greek back into Pali, unperimetered. So, and a manasa, we have manas, meaning mind, from the root man meaning think. It makes the noun manas, meaning a mind, like nam, to bend, namas, namaste, namo. So just we have namas, meaning reverence, literally bending. The root nam simply means, the primitive meaning is just to bend, therefore to bow. Namaste, a bow to you. So manas is a mind. We will now make a derivative adjective from it. Let us proceed to make a derivative adjective. So we have root man. As you all know, I think if it looks like our modern English man, it's because it's the same root. It's this man, mind, and then mankind being the animal that's the animal that distinguishes itself from the other animals by the capability of rational thought on a good day. So manas, just the ending as is, there's quite a few nouns that do it. Manas and namas are the most common. So manas. Let us now make a derivative adjective from it, mental. We can do that by lengthening the first syllable and putting out. So manas, mind, manasa, started off life as an adjective, just meaning mental, to do with the mind. Then by extension, it came to be a noun, meaning mentality, mindset, something like that. So manasam here can be translated as something like mentality or mindset. Interestingly, retaining our roots, because our modern English mind, and from Latin mens mentis, modern English mental, are of course the same word. So we are encouraged here to let one develop this aparimanam manasam, this unperimetered, this boundless mindset or attitude of mind. Sabbabhutesu, among all beings, or for all beings. In English, we talk about developing the mindset towards or for all beings. Here we have the locative plural, which is normal. If you have a desire for something, an attitude towards something, that's normally put in the locative in Sanskrit and Pali. And sabbabhutesu, of course, this is a compound, but it could equally, linguistically correctly, you could have sabbesu, bhutesu, sabbabhutesu. So mata yatha niyam puttam ayusa ekaputtam anurakhe evam pisabbabhutesu manasam bhavaye aparimanam. I just want to check whether I've got the anuswaras right here on the page. Yes, okay. According to another version I have, there is an anuswara there. So I've changed this to anuswara with a subdotted M. Normally one wouldn't, because in ordinary prose you have an M followed by a vowel, which would be a full vocalic. M followed by a vowel is a normal consonantal M, normally. As here, eka puttamanurake, short, puttamanurake. In poetry, it is in Pali, but not in Sanskrit, it is permissible to make a final M anuswara subdotted, even if a vowel follows. It's the liberty with the meter that Pali poets are allowed.
How will that change the Devanagari, James?
It would look so wrong in Devanagari. What would happen is you'd have just a dot. You see where I'm hovering you'd have a dot above just where I'm hovering the cursor there. Niyam Buttam, you'd have a dot there, and you'd follow by a consonantal ah there. Buttam ayusa, as if it was a fresh word beginning with an ah. It's still, I still get a slight pratigasanya sense of striking it away when I say it, because it is alien to Sanskrit, but it's one of the liberties that Pali takes. It's purely metrical, and it is of no grammatical significance. It doesn't alter the meaning at all. Just as in some English poetry, for example, you get never, 2 short syllables, never, and you can drop out the V and put an apostrophe and say nah. So 1 long syllable instead of never, two short syllables. It doesn't affect the meaning. It's just poetic license. So treat this as poetic license. So, Keith, so before we go on to the recitations of it, any comments or queries? Simon, and really do make it an easy one this time.
It's certainly a different one. This may be doctrinal or maybe going into other verses, so feel free to pass on it. But there's a kind of fairly high-level debate that I've seen as to whether this line and the ones around it mean that the practitioner is recommended to cultivate the same emotion, like the equivalent of motherly love, for all sentient beings, or whether they are merely being asked to protect, as a mother does, a feeling of goodwill, which is different from that motherly. And I'm wondering if grammatically there are any hints as to how we would solve that.
Isn't there a famous passage in is it the Visuddhimagga where it compares each of the 4 apramanas to the relationship a mother has with different children?
There is, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Do you happen to have the reference to that, Paladin? I'd be interested to see it. Or if not now, if you can let me have it, I'd be very interested to. So did you say the Visuddhimagga?
Yeah, and I think it was. I'll find it. It was, and it was the relationship a mother would have with each of her 4 children at or with a child at different stages of its life, I think.
Ah, so I'd be very interested to read that, and then that possibly we could.
Yeah. So metta was, I think, and as I remember, metta was like the sort of protective love for a very small child, or the loving, and then equanimity was kind of when the child's grown up and is doing well, something like that.
Yeah, I need a lot of equanimity with some of my children. Yes. Okay, if you can find that reference, I'd be very grateful indeed, Paladin, and we could possibly look at it next time round. So just make a note, VSM. Okay, so we'll come back when I get that reference, then possibly next time round, Simon, we could revisit your question, because there may be a clue there. But here, it's interesting because, first of all, the first part of the analogy is given, or the simile, I should say, just as the mother would protect her child with her own life. And so the description there is of what the mother actually does, and by implication, her own mentality, her own attitude of mind that leads her to do that is what's being described in the first line. But in the second line, what you're specifically asked to do is not to carry out physically protective activities, but we're specifically encouraged to develop the same kind of manasam that induces the mother to perform, to carry on protecting her child. Okay, that's a slightly feeble way of putting it, but hopefully we'll be able to delve into that a bit more when I've if we can have the reference in the Visuddhimagga. Right, so Keith, would you like to do a recitation with your standard, very sharp and precise demarcations between long and short?
Right.
And also, since I've just put in the, hang on, let's make this into an Anuswara as well, simply because I've got a reasonably authoritative copy of it. So when you're doing it, make sure this is held as a long syllable, not
Yes.
puttama, but puttam ayusa.
Yes, I had that in my translations.
Okay, right.
Okay. Mata yata niyang putang ayusa ekaputang evampi. Sorry, start again there. Evampi sabbabutesu manasang bhavaye aparimanam.
Okay, pretty good. You actually got the vowel, sorry, the syllable quantity right in puttam, but it came a bit more, a bit like puttam, so puttam, with the double T very distinctly held to make it a heavy syllable.
Yes. Yes. Right.
So can you just say again, niam puttam ayusa?
Niyam puttam ayusa.
That was very good. Also, one other thing, I think it applies to many of you, we have a strong tendency in English to pronounce in a word like evampi, we have a strong tendency because of the influence of English phonetic to say evampi, to shorten that e. Particularly because we've got a heavy syllable, evampi, but remember, evampi. So never be shy about keeping that e deliberately long, evampi.
Thank you.
Right, okay, there we go. Thank you, Keith. Fenny, would you grace us with either a recitation or a chant?
Oh dear, I'm not used to this. Okay. No chanting.
Okay.
Mata yata niyam putam ayusa ekaputam anurake anurake.
Very good, and yes.
Evam pisabba bute sumanasam bhavaye aparimanam.
Okay, very good. So for one thing, this final consonant there, you came out as kind of aparimanam. You've got just make it a little bit more distinctive than that.
I was getting to the end. Aparimanam.
Exactly so.
Yeah.
You might have been influenced slightly by and I'll go to ask Shri Animala about this in a moment, about the Sinhala pronunciation, because we've heard Sinhalese monks chanting. Of course, you can hear it all over the internet if you want. In Sinhala,
yes, sir.
If you get a final short ah, in Sinhala, it tends to come out as a really neutral. Without the it would be aparimana.
Yeah,
Now, but if it's an at the end, the quality of the vowel is pariman. Say this word as you would. Parimanam, much more short but distinct. If there was no M there, it was just a final short ah. So pronounce it without the final M, aparimana.
Yeah.
It comes out very, very short neutral vowel without the M. So just remember that in India you don't quite hear it like that, and the Thais and the Burmese, but you will hear it among Sinhala speakers. Since, for example, just say the word eka. with Sinhala pronunciation.
Ekaputtam
Ah,
ama.
so
Ekaputtam
yeah.
anurakke.
So you get the very short neutral the sound.
Yeah, ekaputtam.
Yeah.
Ekaputtam.
It's more slightly more open in northern eka, not eka. Anyway, it's grammatically insignificant. It's impossible for us to tell at this distance in time exactly how it was pronounced in ancient times. We know it was a short or will it pronounce or we don't know. It may be varied from district to district. So when you hear these differences of pronunciation, for example, between Sri Lankan monks chanting and Thai monks chanting, for example, be aware of those differences, but they are grammatically insignificant. Okay, thank you. Charlene, I will never compel anybody to perform or to recite or chant, but if you feel inclined to give us a recitation of this verse, you will be very, very welcome indeed.
I don't think I'm quite ready yet. I'm just working on the pronunciations myself as you're going through it, if you don't mind.
Okay, not at all. Nobody is ever compelled. Okay, thanks then, Charlene. Who's next then? Jeremy, will you have a go for us?
Yep. Mata yata niyam puttam ayusa eka puttam anurake evampi sababu tesu manasam bhavaye aparimanam.
Okay, pretty good. There was one point in that a slight shyness again about holding that long e. Bhutesu. The bhute, the u and the e there are of exactly equal length. Bhutesu. You can say just bhutesu.
Bhutesu.
That's it. Keep it like that, and that's good. Okay, thank you, Jeremy. Christine, how about your good self?
Okay, lovely. Here we come. Yes. Mata yasa niyam tam ayusa ekaputtam anurake evampi sababutesu manasam bhavaye aparimanam.
Very good indeed. There was just one point that may have been caused by a technological disturbance of sound there. Can you just say again, sababutesu?
Sababutesu.
That's it. That was exactly right. Good, thank you, Christine. Shriyanimala, to your good self.
Mata yata niyam puttam ayusha ekaputtam anurakhe evampi sabba bhutesu manasam bhaveya parimanam.
Wonderful, thank you. Mariano, we're round to you.
Okay. Mata yata niyam puttam ayusa ekam puttam anurake evampi sabba bhutesu manasam bhavaye aparimanam.
That was lovely, Mariano. Which particular style of chanting there were you doing? Was it derived from any place? Was it the Verdi? So was it kind of your natural Italian flair?
No, it could be Amaravati.
Okay.
It could be.
Right, Amaravati, right. I'm so glad you pronounce that. So many people say Amaravati, but Amaravati is the correct. And Sukhavati, and they
including the monks themselves.
Including some, I find absolutely, well, disgraceful is too strong a word to use. It slipped out. But even the monks of Amaravati sometimes pronounce Amaravati. I mean, they're infected by this English style of doing it. Right, so Palden, round to you.
Sorry, I'm getting distracted by the Visuddhimagga here. Mata yata niyam puttam ayusa ekaputtam anurakke evam pisabba bhutesu manasang bhavaye aparimanam.
Very nice indeed, thank you. And has everyone had a go? Oh, Roger, you haven't had a go yet, have you?
Yeah, I'll have a go.
No.
Oh, sorry, James. I thought I'd sorted it out, but I'm still having technical problems here. So just skip me for the time being. I'm getting pop-ups here blocking the screen.
Oh, what a nuisance.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, shall we pass on you then if you're getting the
Yes,
pop-ups?
please,
Okay,
please
right.
do. I'll try and sort this out.
Okay, not to worry. Remind me next time round in Pali that you go first then. Right, so before we move on from this verse, we go on now to the back to the Dhammapada. Is there anything arising out of this? And we can talk about it and then move on to the Dhammapada. No. Okay then. Let's Dhammapada chapter 9. So here we are starting on a new chapter of the Dhammapada, the Papavaggo. Papa, frequent, it's a neuter noun. It's Papa is it's an adjective and also a neuter noun. So it's equally both. Sometimes translated as sin, but that word has kind of overtones. But it's any kind of wrongdoing or evil. And I think I've said before in this gathering that if, say, a Hindi speaker sees something that he doesn't quite like, or somebody behaving in a way that is not approved of, the Hindi speaker will say, "Wo bada paap hai." That is a big paap, you see. In modern Hindi, paap would be a paap rather than papa. So this is the chapter on wrongdoing, evil doing. So Abhittareta kalyane papa chittam nivaraye dandahanyi karotu punyam papasmim ramati mano. So Abhittareta is abhittarati, means to make haste. It's, oops, hang on, get rid of that. I'll just get back to iPad. Uh-oh. Oh, come on. Here we are. It's from the root war. Vedic root twar. So what meaning to rush or make haste. In Sanskrit it is twarati and in Pali tarati. Beware, because the tarati actually looks like the homonym tarati, meaning to cross, as in avatara and so on. In Sanskrit, that ambiguity couldn't occur because the Sanskrit would have a twa. So if you abhitwarati in Sanskrit, abhitarati in Pali, means to hasten towards something. In other words, get on with it quickly. Don't leave it till another day. Like St. Augustine of Hippo, Lord, purify my heart, but not yet. So that this advice could have applied to St. Augustine of Hippo. There's a slight anomaly here. So abhi twarati. In Pali, we would have expected to be something like abhi. I've deliberately left a space here. Abhi tarati, the tw becoming a double t in Pali, is what you would have expected, but anomalously, an aspiration has crept in and it just got stuck there. It is anomalous, so we just have to accept that in Pali it's abhitareti. So it means to hasten towards. Not in fact, it's cognate with our English word twirl. It's kind of a rapid twirling movement. The idea of twarati, rapidity of movement. So let one make haste. Oops. Kalyane. I think it could equally have used the accusative abitarete kalyanam. It means let one make haste, in the doing of good. Abitarete kalyanam, let's hasten towards goodness. But abitarete kalyane, okay, this locative then is in the doing of good, in doing that which is kalyana. Kalyana was cognate with the Greek kalos, meaning good, calligraphy, and so on. So it's broadly speaking, anything that is good. The kalyana mitta, the spirit, the kalyana mitta. It can be, by the way, both adjective and noun. So this kalyana mitta in the Theravada often translated as the good friend, but equally it can mean one's friend in goodness. In other words, one's friend who helps you go towards the kalyana. So good friend and friend in goodness are both equally valid interpretations of that word. Papa chittan nivaraye. So this is the ablative here. Papa, from evil. Chittan, one's chitta, one's mind and heart. Nivaraye, to hold back, restrain. This prefix ni, sorry, I'm looking at David Nagy. The prefix ni here, it means in. In fact, it's the same as the Latin in and our English word in. But it also has the idea of down or back, you holding something in, holding something down. And the var is from the root meaning defending or covering. We have the nivarana, which is a hindrance. Nivaraye is the verbal form. Let one restrain, hold back. Oh, Mariano. Okay, see you next time, Mariano. Be well. So nivaraye, let one hold back, let one restrain. In fact, it's, as I've mentioned several times before, it's cognate with, for example, our English word weir, as in a weir in a river, because it restrains the flow of water. Also as ward, as in to ward off or to guard. So weir, ward, guard, vara, are all from the etymologically same root. So to restrain or to hold back. Chittam, the mind, the chitta, papa, ablative from evil.
James,
Simon,
could I just check this one here? This is the optative, presumably.
Mm-hmm.
It's an odd form. I checked this one out and I couldn't find nivarati. So, and I think it only comes up in nivareti. So what in effect a causative.
So that's right. So did I mention that? I think this particular verb only ever appeared. Did I mention it? I did mention only found in class 10 form, nivareti.
Sorry, I didn't see that. So is the optative form, it's the kind of short form of just putting an A on the end. And it's the ayati, so it's aye, and they've missed off the aya, the final a in aya.
No, what happens is for the optative form of class 10, it's the indicative would be nivareti or nivarayati, but you don't repeat that syllable, so it's regular. Nivaraye is regular for the optative of class 10.
Okay, and presumably you're using the aya form, but just putting the e on the end as you do with some other optatives.
As in anurakhe.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't know how historically it happened. Nivaraye, or nivaraye. You are effectively just taking the class 10 stem, the class 10 base, nivare, nivarayati, and putting the a on the end of it. And I would say you're taking the class 10 stem with the ending aya or ai, and just putting the a instead of the ati. And exactly as we had in the Metta Sutta. So in the verse we've just been looking, bhavaye, remember it's bhavayati or bhaveti, bhavaye. So I tend to plump for bhavayati, bhavaye, the ati being replaced by a, as in rakhati protects, rakhe, let one protect.
So in effect, this ending for an optative is a sign that it's probably a class 10, or that it's been transferred into a causative form.
These are not mutually exclusive categories. Class, you very frequently create a causative verb by putting the class 10 endings. Right. So the class 10 and causatives are very frequently associated. So there's a large degree of overlap between the two. They certainly aren't mutually exclusive categories. So it's a class 10 verb, but with causative meaning, like a very large, maybe possibly even a majority of the class 10 verbs.
I meant kind of in reverse engineering it. So if we find bhavaye, we know we're talking about bhaveti rather than bhavati.
Well, but we do, yes, we do, yeah.
That's brilliant.
So I think I'm right in saying that's always true. I'm fairly sure, but yes, on your reverse in engineering, yes, I think I'm virtually certain that you're right. So did you have your hand raised, Shirinimala?
Sorry, sir, I didn't do anything.
Sorry, I thought I saw maybe your hand was just rising into the air. Not to worry. Okay then. So bandhanhi karoto punyam papasmin ramati mano. Here we have distinct poetic license. Ram means to take pleasure, to delight in something. And normally, you see there's a long E at the end of the... In normal prose, you would not find a long E there. It has been put there for metrical purposes. Normally in prose, ramati mano, ramati with a short E. It's been made long here purely for the meter. So mano ramati papasmin, the mind delights in papa. The mind of whom? The karoto. This is a slightly irregular form of the present participle of the verb karoti, to do. So karoto, of the person who does. You could equally have had korontassa. I've done a note on the grammar of it. I think I've done. Here we are. Yeah. So I've done a note below on the grammar of karoto. So you could have had korontassa or karoto. So the consonant stem karont only found in the instrumental and genitive singular, karota, karoto, and genitive plural, karotam. A bit of an irregular verb. So just bear in mind the karoto, of one who does, masculine genitive singular of the present participle of that verb. So, mano karoto punyam, the mind of the doer of punyam, punya, dandham, the dandha, somebody who is slow to do punya. So the mind of him who does punya dandham, idly, slothfully, slowly, the mind of that person, ramati, so ramati papasmin, delights in evil. So here, not even the person who doesn't do it at all, but the person who sluggishly does it is loath to do punya. This word in Pali, dandha, could be cognate. I think I've done a note on it with the Sanskrit tandr, to tire. We have attandito. We have in Pali attandito, literally untired, which means doing something tirelessly. Ratindivam attandito, night and day, untiring, tirelessly, night and day. It would be a slightly anomalous to get from tund to dund, but it does occasionally happen. And just query whether it derives. But it's not a very common word, and it just means dandham, slowly or sluggishly. Sometimes these little particles, like he, sometimes you can ignore them, or just say verily, indeed, just doesn't really add much. But sometimes they do have a distinct meaning. And wherever you get a proposition made or an injunction given as in the first line, and you then find a follow-on line of which he is the second word, that very often means that very often a causative, a follow-on. So for instance, so where I put for the mind, this conjunctive for here, do so and so, for if you don't, I mean because if you don't, very often this he there has the same effect as the English conjunction, not the preposition, but the conjunction for there. For the mind of one who makes merit idly, delights in evil. And we're nearly on 1 o'clock. So punya, just look at it briefly. The punya, often translated as merit, making merit, which doesn't, I can't say it's actually wrong, but making merit is, it doesn't quite catch it, because the pu, it actually could come, likely to come, from the same root as pu, which we get in Latin purus, and the English word pure. So punya, yes, okay, in certain contexts it can mean an act of merit, like you're building up your spiritual bank balance. In fact, the Latin merere means to earn. In legal terms, quantum meruit, as is earned, the amount that he's earned from merere, as in, and it makes it so merit almost looks a little bit commercial in a sense, in that sense. But the punya, so merit, yes, earning, yes, the spiritual bank balance to a certain extent, but the broader idea that these acts of punya, in fact, acts that purify yourself. So you can give something, and at the most basic level, okay, you've given that, so that goes into, you've got a credit in your account because you've given, you see, on the double entry bookkeeping. But a real act of giving is now given that, therefore there's a credit on my side of the balance. The real act is actually a genuine no strings, not wanting anything in return, giving. It's a relinquishment. So to that extent, that echoes with the root pu, meaning pure, same as Latin, as I said, meaning it's an act of self-purification, these acts of punya. So we've just gone beyond 1 hour now, so we'll come back and carry on a bit with this verse next time round. And I will, as usual, see some of you, I hope, in 3/4 of an hour for the Sanskrit class. I'll just stop there. There we are. Boom. Okay, thank you all very much. Thanks for joining. See you next time. Thank you. Bye. Bye.